the company, it was loved by all the retailers. It was number one supplier to J.C. Penney. It had surpassed everything. It was a solid earner. It dominated Maine. They were nice people, and of course the Chinese hadn't come up by that time. They just came up so fast, and they just took no prisoners in the shoe business. And they weren't just cheaper by a little; they were half priced. And of course, the shoe business is not that easy a business. Of course, people bought the half price shoes, and the business just went to hell very fast. But that business, because it created such a huge lesson, and it looks awful in terms of what the Berkshire stock is worth. I mean, we're the main charity in Maine, if you call us. But at the time, it was 2% of 1 year's performance. That's what we lost by having that go to zero. So our return from 1 year went down by 2 percentage points. Now, to be sure, if we bought our own stock instead of this thing, or not giving away our stock, it's a huge error. But we learn from it. I just think if you just keep going, you'll make some mistakes, and of course you'll learn from them. How could you not learn from that one? We've learned how awful it is to have somebody who's really way lower priced come in hard, and how no amount of managerial skill could protect us. Now we have other shoe businesses and little niches that make $20 million a year or something after taxes. Maybe a little bit of that is left over Dempster even, but we make do. But don't you all have mistakes?
Yes.
Yeah.
That are painful?
Yes.
And haven't you learned from them?
Yep.
Yeah, and isn't that good?
Yep.
Yes.
And so, but I don't know what I would do now if I were. I live surrounded by Capital Guardian people. I have over $1 trillion. And they hire all these guys that get A's in business school, and they treat them well, and they divide them up, and they get expertise in various places. And it doesn't work to beat the indexes. I knew that company when it was smaller, 500 or 600 million. They beat the indexes by a point a year, which was fine because they were drawing the fees off the top and the clients. Now they've lagged by a point a year, or whatever the hell it is, and they handle that the way by denial. They just don't face it. I was there the other day, and this very nice portfolio manager who's very smart, polished, generous, nice man. Assistant, very nice, polished, intelligent woman. And he said, well, he says, we outperform in my fund, which has $100 billion, by 2 percentage points a year. I'm going to raise my eyebrow. I just look at it for a while. He said, well, I mean that we outperform our competitors by 2 percentage points a year. And I said, yes, and in that overperformance, a lot of it was a long time ago, and you had way less money. And there was another horrified pause, and finally the woman says, he's on to us. We're not to discuss something else. At any rate, it is awkward. You want to keep getting paid, you like your line of work, you're flying around interviewing management and so forth. And when all is said and done, and they did it for a long time before, but it just got harder. And then I see people leave. They say, can't manage $30 billion, I'll manage $3 billion, and now I'll outperform. And they've had that happen 2 or 3 times. And the new guys don't outperform either, because the new client still wants 10 stocks or something. Oh, and there's another experiment they've done about 3 times at Capital Guardian. Follow what the great investors are doing. That's one way. They said, we'll get the best idea from our best people, and we'll make a portfolio just of our best ideas from our best people. Nothing can be more plausible. I've done it 3 times and it's failed every time. Now, how would you predict that? Well, I can predict it because I know psychology. When you pound out an idea as a good idea, you're pounding it in. So by asking people for their best ideas, they were getting the stuff that people had most pounded in, so they believed. So of course it didn't work, and they stopped doing it because it didn't work. They didn't know why it didn't work because they haven't read the psychology books, but they knew it didn't work, so they stopped. And it's so plausible. I don't think that's true at Berkshire. I think at Berkshire, if you asked me and Warren for our best ideas, that would have worked. But it didn't work in a place like that. A more conventional manager. By the way, I don't think it would work that perfectly at Berkshire. I think it would work better than it did at Capital Guardian. But isn't that interesting that would not work?
Is it still true you talk to Warren once a week now?
No. It'd be like talking to yourself. We don't have any new ideas. 87 and 93 of that. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, but the young men make some contributions. They cause us to think about things we wouldn't have thought about before. We would not have bought the airlines or the Apple if the young man hadn't come up with the idea. But once they did, Warren ran with it. And Warren's pretty great. It was hard to buy that much airline stock. Doesn't sound like much airline stock, by Berkshire standards, but we had to be a hell of a percentage of the market in those areas for a pretty long time. It's very hard to manage a lot of money.
Must be an awkward conversation with Bill Gates after he bought the Apple stock.
What?
I said it must be an awkward conversation with Bill Gates after that Apple stock buy.
Bill Gates does not have any illusions on that subject. Bill Gates bought that $150 million with Apple. I think they sold it.
All right.
Yeah.
And
That was a good buy.
Yeah, but it was not a good sale. Oh, I got another story for you. Just another story.
I'm gonna steal peanut brittle.